students, I'm Aanchal Sharma, your educator. In this video, we are going to discuss about another topic related to environment. It would be ethanol blending. So let us read something about ethanol blending. Ethanol is basically stands for your ethyl alcohol having chemical formula as C2H5OH, can be produced from sugarcane, maize, wheat, etc., which are having high starch content. So these materials which have a high starch content can be used to make ethanol. In India, ethanol is mainly produced from sugarcane by the fermentation process. So the molasses of the sugarcane are combined together, and because of the process and with the usage of the process of fermentation, we can make ethanol. Ethanol can be mixed with gasoline to form different blends, and this blend can be used in different vehicles and in other activities as well. As the ethanol molecule contains oxygen, it allows the engine to more completely combust the fuel. So because of incomplete combustion, we see that there was a lot of air pollution that was being added. But when ethanol, as it has larger amount of molecules of oxygen, it is very good when it is used as a fuel in your engines because of the complete combustion property, resulting in fewer emissions, thereby reducing the pollution level that is seen in the environment. Since ethanol is produced from plants that harness the power of the sun, ethanol is also considered as a renewable fuel. So we all know that there are two types of fossil fuel, two types of energies that we have. We have renewable and we have non-renewable. So these resources, which are renewable resources, can be replenished, can be used again and again. And ethanol is one of them. So ethanol should be used. Now, what is the need of ethanol blending? According to the report by the Special Expert Committee set up by the Centre, India's net import of petroleum is too high. It is about 185 MT at the cost of $551 billion that was seen from 2020 to 2021, which means that we are importing a lot of petrol. Because of this, the cost is too high and the expenditure is also getting high. Hence, the successful E20 program that our economy wants to go, that our government wants to follow is a very good initiative. Then we have the ethanol being used. Why? Because it is climate friendly. Ethanol is less polluting fuel and offers equivalent efficiency at the lower cost than the petroleum. Hence, we should move towards ethanol blending and using of the ethanol as it is a renewable resource. Secondly, it is economically also useful. And thirdly, it is what? It is climatically friendly. Then hydrocarbon emission are reduced by 20% with ethanol blends as compared to the normal gasoline. If you use normal gasoline, there will be a lot of hydrocarbon emission seen in the environment. But when there is ethanol being used, then from 20% you can reduce the hydrocarbon emission. Based on the sources of the raw materials that we have been discussing, the ethanol or the bioethanol that we are making can be classified into three categories. There is first generation called as the 1G bioethanol. Then there is second generation 2G bioethanol. Then there is third generation, that is the 3G bioethanol. Let us see how these ethanols are made. So the first generation bioethanol refers to the ethanols that have been derived from some food-based feedstocks. Then this can be starch, or it can be sugarcane, or it can be corn, etc. So when these food stocks are used to make up ethanol, it is called as the first generation ethanol. These are alcohols produced by the use of enzymes and the microorganisms through the process of fermentation, and then the ethanol is being made. So whenever we talk about the first generation ethanol, we know that it is made up of by the process of fermentation of the starch and the sugar, that is present in the food crops. But of course, this comes with the drawbacks as well. If you recklessly use the food crops, then one day it will be, you will find that the food that was for the consumption purpose is reducing. So we are coming up with more and more initiatives so that more and more sugar canes can be grown as well. But yes, we have seen that if excessive usage of food crops are being done, then the consumption can be a major problem. The demand supply chain will be affected. These are most common types of alcohols that are made by the process of fermentation. So whenever we make ethanol from the food-based feedstocks, we call it as what? We call it as the first generation ethanol. Then the second generation bioethanol are those produced from the non-food feedstocks. Since the second generation bioethanols are derived from different feedstock, different technology is often used to produce them. Now, these are not produced from food stock, but they are produced from the remaining organic substances that are left, right? So these are derived from different amounts of feedstocks that are not directly used for the consumption. They are called as the second generation bioethanols. Then comes the third generation. So the third generation bioethanol is obtained from the algae biomass. The algae can be used to produce a variety of biomass such as hydrogen diesel, isobutene, and of course we have ethanol. So in the third type of bioethanol, this ethanol is made up of your algae biomass, right? This is how we move from the first generation to the second generation. Then we have the third generation, and now we also have the fourth generation, which we are preparing from the waste. And this has been very much in boom. We want to push towards the usage of the slurry to make our bioethanols, right? This is how the different generations are. Now, ethanol blending. Why is ethanol blending so good? Ethanol blending will enhance the engine performance. Ethanol serves as an octane booster, which can enhance the engine efficiency and lessen the knocking noises. It also supports the agriculture sector. How the agriculture sector would be helped? If the farmers are asked to, just grow more and more crops, then the economy would also boom at the agriculture sector. So it is useful for the agriculture sector. It is useful because it is very much fuel efficient. Then farmers' income can also be increased if you use ethanol. So hence we started blending the ethanol with the gasoline. The energy demand of our country is rising and has ever been rising, and we all know that. The growing population, we know that the increasing urbanization will ask us and will demand that there should be more and more fuels being used. The evolving lifestyle and the rising of the power needs more and more fuel. About 98% of the fuel requirement in the road transportation sector is currently met by fossil fuels, and the remaining only 2% is met by biofuels. So we want that now we should use more and more biofuels because they are the renewable resources. These fossil fuels are non-renewable resources. Once used, they will be finished. So we want what? We want biofuels to be promoted. Hence, the national policy on biofuels that came out in 2018 said that we have a target of 20% of the ethanol blending under the ethanol blending petrol, that is the EBP program by 2025. And this is important. They can ask this in the paper as well. The ethanol blending petrol program EBP said that we will be doing about 20% of the blending till 2025. Currently, ethanol makes up 10% of the petrol we use in our own vehicles. The original target for India was to raise this ratio to 20% by 2030, but the deadline was pushed back to 2025 when NITI Aayog realized its ethanol, released its ethanol roadmap in 2021. So initially we said that we would be doing 20% of the blending by 2030 only, but when NITI Aayog released their roadmap, which you can also find on the portal, so you can just download and read the roadmap, you will realize that we wanted to achieve it way back, but now we have pushed the target and we are saying that the ethanol blending can happen. We will be promoting it by 2025. So India has adopted ethanol blending in petrol in order to reduce the vehicle exhaust emissions that we have, because it is creating a lot of problems and pollution. India's net import of petrol is also too high, so we are also following this ethanol blending. Most of the petroleum that is used in the vehicle is being imported, so we want to use now the ethanol blending. 20% of the ethanol blending program can save the country of about $4 billion per annum. The renewable ethanol content is expected to result in a net reduction of the emission of carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide and hydrocarbons. These are all the substances that when they're, these are all these gases, when their emission increases, it's only causing what? Air pollution. So when we have the reduction in the carbon dioxide, then we have carbon monoxide and hydrocarbons, then the air will also improve. Ethanol itself burns clear and it burns completely than petrol. Hence, it is the blending that is an option for us. There will be a complete combustion that would happen. Ethanol blending will help bring down our share of oil imports, as I was telling you. So it is estimated that 5% of the blending can result in the replacement of about 1.8 million barrels of crude oil. So we should now mix the we should start using the ethanol blending products. So the ethanol produced from the farmer residual will boost the farmer's income and minimize the air pollution by reducing the amounts of the stubble burning also. And we have discussed in greater detail the phenomena of stubble burning and how these states like Punjab are burning the chaff that is present, and because of which there is a lot of smog, and of course the air pollution also increases. The shift towards sugarcane production should be there. These are the few challenges. So what are the challenges associated with ethanol blending? We have already discussed the merits that we should use ethanol blending, but what will be the problems associated with it? So of course we should shift towards the sugarcane production to achieve these 20% of the blending that I was telling you. Almost 1/10 of the existing net sown area will have to be diverted towards the sugarcane production, and sugarcane requires a lot of water. So there are few problems associated with this also. We are saying that we want more and more land, we want more and more area for the sugarcane production, because sugarcane is used for making the ethanol, and ethanol blending needs to be done. We have a target that by 2025, 20% of the alcohol blending should be there. So, but the major problem is that these crops like corn or these crops like your sugarcane require a lot of water, and about 50% of the water that we require that is required for the irrigation would go waste here only. Also, another problem is that the demand supply chain would be affected. So these problems need to be considered here. The storage is going to be a main concern for its E10, that is the 10% blending of the ethanol supply has to continue in tandem with the E20 supply. Storage would have to be separate, which then raises the cost also. So we should be considering more and more cost here, and we should try to make it more cost effective, because storage would also be a problem. So we are using E10. What is E10? E10 is a fuel when there is 90% of the petrol mixed with 10% of the alcohol. And what is E20? E20 is 20% of the petrol mixed with 20% of the ethanol. Of course, food insecurity is a problem. I told you demand supply would be affected by it, And there is another problem, and this problem is that there is no reduction in the emission of nitrous oxide. So yes, there will be complete combustion, but the results have shown that the nitrous oxide is not reduced. Because ethanol burns more completely than petrol, it avoids emissions such as your carbon monoxide. However, there is no reduction in your nitrous oxide. That is one of the major environmental pollutant as well. So this will also be one drawback that should be considered. Now I want you to just go to the website of Government of India and just read about the different ethanol. Just read about the roadmap for the ethanol blending in India. That is, the time period is 2020 to 2025. They have given a complete roadmap of what they want to achieve and in which years. So this is the website. You can directly open the website and read about the oil refinery, read about different biofuels, read about ethanol blending programs. And then this would make, this would give you a complete picture about the ethanol blending and will make things clear, because repeatedly the questions are being asked from this sector, from this segment about the ethanol blending, right? So the Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas, NITI Aayog, came up with this report, which I urged you to read. Then let us read something more about ethanol blending, some facts that can be asked in the paper and have been asked. So ethanol fuel blends are widely used in United States. The most common blend is 10% ethanol and your 90% petrol, that is E10. The vehicle engines require no modifications to run on E10 and the vehicle warranties are unaffected too. So when it comes to E10, the vehicle warranties and the vehicles are unaffected, but of course more and more efficient vehicles need to be there if we start mixing more and more ethanol. Only flexible fuel vehicles can run up to 85% ethanol and 15% petrol blends. So this was the question that was also asked. We are coming up with flex fuel vehicles now. This was a question that was asked in your 2022 paper as well. And in your 2022, they asked about the flex fuel vehicles. Now, what are these flex fuel vehicles? These vehicles are those vehicles that can run up to 85% of the ethanol and 15% petrol blends. That is called as E85. Now, you should also know something about Pradhan Mantri Jeevan Yojana that came out in 2019. So in 2019, the Cabinet Ministry on Economic Affairs, that is the CCEC, approved the Pradhan Mantri Jeevan Yojana. It says that the Yojana aims to provide financial support by the viability gap funding, that is the VGF, to the second generation integrated bioethanol projects. So the first generation was complete, that was very much affected. Now in 2019, with the help of your VGF, support was given to start using the second generation ethanols. This is done by using the lignocellulose biomass and other renewable feedstock. Now, Indian automobile sector not only needs to focus on the electric vehicles that are called as the EVs, but also on the flex fuel engines. So we are also shifting towards the flex fuel engines because that is helpful. Today, as on, this was the latest data only, nearly 4.8 million cars are running on the Brazilian road, where 75% of the total can run on a mixture of ethanol and gasoline to its flex fuel engines, right? So Brazil is a country which is recklessly using these ethanol, and flex fuel vehicles are optimizing here. The flex fuel vehicles optimize to run on any mixture of E20 to E25 gasoline. E20 contains 20% of the ethanol and 80% of the gasoline, while E25 contains 25% of the ethanol and up to 100% hydrous ethanol fuel, that is E10. Now this was your PYQ, and you can check the English literature shift, I believe. That was shift 1. They asked about flex fuels, right? This was the same statement that they use. On the other hand, Indian automobile sector needs to work on the flexible fuel engines and the flexible fuel vehicles technology and safety, which is also helping to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions and to reduce the hike of the fuel price and the different trends that we have. So we in your, in Glasgow, your COP26, we came up with so many initiatives that India wants to take. We have been talking about usage of, we are talking about that we need to reduce the carbon footprint. The global emission should be, we should, go towards zero emission by 2070. So all of these are boiling down to usage of more and more renewable resources as compared to non-renewable resources. Whatever, the rules and regulations that we have been laying and whatever policies we are making, they all suggest that we should now shift towards these electronic vehicles, and this is only possible if we focus on the flex fuel vehicles technology also, right? Because we are lacking somewhere, behind when it comes to the technology part also. Also, a lot of petroleum is being, imported, which can increase the cost. So also, this is because of this also, we want to use more and more ethanol. So ethanol blending is a good future and a future towards the India where there is less amount of greenhouse gases, and this is how we can achieve the target that we had in Paris Agreement. We still want to achieve that the temperature should be 2 degrees Celsius and favorably it should be about 1.5 degrees Celsius. So for that, all of these efforts are being done, and this would be a wonderful effort, right? So let us once discuss about the benefits only. So what is the basic benefits? The basic benefits of using the ethanol blending would do what? The ethanol blending is good because it will decrease the cost that we are putting on the import of the petroleum. Also, it is very much climate friendly. There will be complete combustion and the hydrocarbon emission would be reduced. But there are some problems associated with it. If we keep on using the first generation fuels, then first generation ethanol blending fuels, then what will happen? The demand supply can be a problem. Then of course there can be your storage, that can be a problem. So we need to look at both the aspects and we need to find the common solutions, and then we need to focus more on the electronic vehicles also, right? So I hope you like the video, you like the initiative. If you have any doubt, you can write it in the comment section and I will surely reply to you. Thank you.